Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Live on Location with Bowen and Mimi. Today we are in Revelstoke, BC with Kata, Polano. I'm so happy that you have invited us into Acoustic Ink Tattoo Studio. Kata is the founder, the owner of this awesome creative space. And she's worn many different hats over the years, from yoga teacher, mountain bike teacher. You had a restaurant at a certain time.
At a point in time.
Yeah, you've done a lot of traveling. And also you, for 10 years, I think you were building
Was building mud houses.
mud houses.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? There's a lot of different places we could begin.
I mean, we can start from the beginning or we can start from now and move backwards. We can jump around.
I love
Thanks
how
for coming
flexible
in.
you are. So I'm actually very curious about you as an artist as a kid.
Okay, yeah. As every child artist, your pictures end up on the fridge and you look back on them and 20 years later you're like, oh my God, why did that get hung up? But it was encouraging, right? Like when your grandparents and your parents put your art on the wall when you're young, it's like, okay, this is all right. So I just always enjoyed it more than anything. It was fun. It was, you get to go into your own little world. You get to challenge yourself. Sometimes with, like learn how to draw. I remember I had a book. It was learn how to draw horses because I used to ride horses too. So I think my grandfather got it for me and I was like so pumped on that. I tried to draw horses and took art in high school and had some very interesting and creative instructors and professors with that.
Any shout outs?
Oh my gosh. No, I can't remember their names. I remember the classes, but yeah.
Yeah. What was it you remembered about them?
One thing I remember, which kind of frustrates me because I can't remember what it was. I had this one teacher in high school and we had just papers and he had a bin of water and you would put like an ink or something on the surface and you would dip it in. And I've seen videos now where they're like doing that to, like on bicycles and guitars and you dip it through the water and the paper comes out with like this marbled effect. And I was just like, what was that? And
there's a Vernon artist named Christine Kashuba, and we interviewed her, and that is her style of art. And you'd think that in this moment I should know the name of it. But it is using the sunlight.
No, not even.
Oh, it's different.
It just like makes contact with the surface of whatever it is. And when you pull it back out, it just...
There's a chemical process?
Yeah, or like a water...
Okay, well, we'll look into that because I think this is maybe what she did, but...
Yeah, I've seen some videos of it lately and it's like, I've got to like actually look up the technique because I remember that. It just stood out to me.
Yeah.
And he would also have us put like a projector and throw an image up so we can enlarge something. And we were doing like masters like you do in studies in art, and master studies of like these paintings from before, and you'd take like a section of it and like really hone in on the little details, right? Rather than try to do the whole painting, you focus on just the feet of a piece of a painting. He was just, that particular teacher, and I think it was like grade 9 or something, right? So it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But he just had like really interesting creative ways, and his classes really stood out. Yeah.
And at that time, were you just open to any techniques? Or I think I read something that you preferred painting over drawing.
Yeah, I love painting. I think because it's more forgiving. You can paint layers. You can like paint over it. You can move it around when it's still wet. Whereas like when you put pencil or lead on paper, it's there. Like something you can erase it to a point, and when you move to pen, like it's there, right? And which is kind of funny. That deterred me more. Now I'm a tattoo artist because as soon as you put that needle on skin, like
I was wondering, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I just love the freedom and the motion of paintings, and with tattooing and drawing. People are like, oh, well, to get into tattooing, you need a portfolio, so you need to draw, so you can take this portfolio to people so you can get an apprenticeship and all that. I'm like, well, I hate drawing. And then when a friend was teaching me how to tattoo, I found out I loved drawing when someone made a request for a specific tattoo. I think I couldn't focus on what I wanted to draw. Somehow I could focus on what I wanted to paint. So yeah, it's an interesting thing about
Yeah.
art and how I went. And I'm
It
sure
is.
other artists are like that. They have their mediums they like.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, mine was painting. I still love to paint.
After high school, you went into university or college?
Yeah, I went to the University of Guelph,
Okay.
which is in Ontario.
Yeah.
And I actually got a, not as creative, but a bachelor in commerce, my BCom, specifically in hospitality and tourism. Back then it was called HAFA, and we got teased. It was half a degree, but it was hospitality and food administration. And yeah, it was fun, and it came in useful eventually, right? Like running a business. I've run a couple businesses, and you know, just on your spare time or your electives or stuff, you can take things that were more interesting. But in university, I went. My hobbies ended up being a little bit more activities, like rock climbing and stuff, versus the art. So I just kind of experimented in a different outlet of free time. Yeah.
What brought you to BC?
Oh, that's a good question. I came out, well, not quite to BC, but I came out to do a couple summers in Jasper. Back when I was in university, in our summers, we had them off, and I just loved the mountains.
Well, I was going to ask you, to come from Ontario and see the Rockies for the first time.
Or what people were doing, right, during the summers. They're like, oh, we're going out to Jasper, we're going out to Banff or whatever, we're going to work in the mountains. And it's like, okay, what's this about? Had some friends that were coming out. So I'm like, all right, I'll go. You know, most of the students would apply to jobs with like Fairmount and big hotels, right? And just to get out here.
Yeah.
So I did that. Worked in Jasper a couple summers, and I just fell in love with the mountains. But it didn't really, at that time, it didn't hold me. Like when I finished school, I went traveling other places, mainly Mexico. And while I was down there, I had a friend who was really into yoga and meditation and things like that. And then he said to me one day, he was like, you know, I want to build mud houses. I'm like, what are mud houses? And I'm picturing literally like an igloo on the side of the road in India made of dung. And I'm like, that sounds neat. Let's do this.
Yes.
And then he showed me pictures, and they're beautiful houses, like the Tudor houses in Germany, like, you know, with the exposed timber frames and all
is
this.
this the same? Like, is a mud house the same as a cob build?
Yeah.
Or...
So I'm like just generalizing the term. I think he used the term mud houses, so I had no idea, right? But yeah, they're cob houses, they're straw bale houses, they're adobe houses, things like that. So when the tides shifted and it was time for me to kind of make my next move while I was in Mexico, I remembered him saying this, like it was 3 years prior, right? Like, oh, maybe I'll try that now. And so I looked it up, and I'm like, well, I kind of wanted to learn in my own language. My Spanish was good. I was fluent in Spanish, but you have like your compartments of topics that you're fluent in, and I was not fluent in construction. Right. So it's like, maybe I'll learn in my own language. And then so there were schools in the States and there were schools in Canada. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do that, I'll go back to my own country. So Vancouver Island had a great school, and I went out there and did an internship there for 6 months, and then started building houses out of mud.
What an adventure. So did you live on site while you were there on the island? Did they have accommodations for the students?
Yeah, at that community, we lived in tents on site, and they had various buildings they would work on the property. And then after that, I would just pick up projects and work on site, and then go home and live in a normal house. Conventional house.
Yeah.
Not a tent.
Can people make a business out of that? Like,
Absolutely.
Is there enough interest in it?
Absolutely. Yeah? I did it for 10 years.
Okay.
It's pretty location specific, kind of where you have more of the grassroots movements. So like Vancouver Island is a hot spot for it. It's probably climate specific a little bit, though it doesn't have to be. There are a couple straw bale houses, and there's a hempcrete house here in Revelstoke. Vancouver Island, California, Oregon. So from that, coming around to coming to Revelstoke? Is that what the
It's
original
okay.
question
No,
was?
we're on a journey here, but I
Yeah.
still have more questions about
We're
calm
following
build,
the trail.
like
So
mud house building. I'm
yeah.
just thinking then again about you being an artist and being able to be creative in a very
Okay.
different way. So can you just speak about that for a minute?
So I ended up doing most of the finish work on these houses, which was plastering. Inside would be plastering, outside would be rendering, but it's the finish coats on the walls. I had a lot of creative clients that would get me to put like relief sculptures within the plaster. So right in the wall we have like sculptures going on. I got into glass work a little bit and did like custom pseudo stained glass windows for these houses. So that's a little bit where my creativity got to come out and my artistic elements got to play into what can be kind of a, straight lined kind of industry, right? Natural building, which is, these are mud houses, it's natural building. The houses are often like curvilinear and they're not straight, they're not flat walls, so you can get a little bit more flow and texture and play with everything. So
And natural builders, does it attract a similar type of person to doing that?
all kinds.
Okay.
All kinds. You get the ones that are very engineered minded, very numbers minded, and they really care about changing the industry to be more sustainable, to build better buildings and healthier buildings. And then you get people like me that are just coming in because it feels good, and everything in between. So
yeah,
it attracts all kinds of people, and same with clients, right? There are clients that want to get involved, or clients that are just like loved the whole sustainability, but they're like, hey, here's the project, take it away. So we get a lot of owner builders because it is more of a grassroots method to building. Just.
And then you said you just go with what feels good. So after that, what felt good? Where did you
Well,
move
I
to
ended
now?
up moving to Nelson. And there's some natural building down there, so I was keeping busy a bit. It's a lot more seasonal. Seasons are shorter. And then in the winter, I needed to find something else to do. So I started looking around. I'd met some people that lived in Revelstoke. It's not too far, Nelson. So I started looking at what was available for work up here for the winter. I heard about the skiing. It had been like 20 years since I had skied. So I was like,
Right.
well, it didn't come because of the skiing, which a lot of people in Revelstoke do come for. But I got a good job working massage at the spa that was at the time at the ski hill, which got me a good deal on a ski pass. And I'm like, well, I'm in Revelstoke, I should probably ski. So I bought some skis, some used skis, nothing that fit. And I got out there and it was like, wow, this is big. And, you just kind of jump in 2 feet and find somebody that skis just a little faster than you and try to keep up. And it gets you going pretty quickly into the skiing here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I ended up in Revelstoke. I got a job doing the massage. Went back for one more summer to Nelson, came back here and decided this was a better fit for me than
I was
anywhere
curious
else.
about that. Nelson being another hip kind of mountain town, and how does it differ? Yeah, so
they're so different.
Yeah.
How do they differ without? There's kind of like there's like you either love or hate Nelson sort of thing, and then there's like Revelstoke versus Nelson. There's also a little Revelstoke versus Golden thing, So I don't want to say anything. That's like
no problem.
But
just Revelstoke to me feels a bit more open.
it is. Yes, that's a.
So
that
maybe
was almost the
energy
word that
sort of
just came.
flows through it a bit easier.
Yeah,
is that it?
A little bit more open. I find the people more open. The one thing that I didn't realize I hated about Nelson until I lived here were the parking meters. It's such a weird, bizarre little thing, but they love to catch you with the parking meter.
Hey,
in
we're in Vernon and we experience the same thing.
You have
there.
parking meters there.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And in Nelson, there's nowhere to park, and so you'd go and you'd park, and everybody was in. I noticed like everybody was in a hurry. It's like, oh, I got my parking meter. I gotta move my car because like they'll wait if there's a minute left on your meter, they'll wait to like give you a ticket, right? And it was just always so stressful.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it had that like chill vibe, and everything is like up a hill like this, and so biking there was like here you bike everywhere. You can just, it's super easy. Walk, bike, you're there in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Does it feel more connected as well being in Revelstoke to other communities or?
Well, I wasn't in Nelson super long. I was probably on Vancouver Island a little longer, and the community I lived in there felt very connected. The farmers markets, the music, things like that, little events. It felt great. I was there long enough to start connecting to people and the community and that. So I don't think it's that different. It's just about the amount of time and effort you put into a community, and then you're gonna feel connected,
It's
right?
very true.
Yeah. So, it's I find it very friendly and easy to kind of be here. Yeah.
It's making me think of a time in Ohio where it took me about a year, I think.
Yeah, it does
to
take
find
time.
my way into that community. And
Yeah. And you kind of, you try out different sections of the community. You're like, where do I fit? What feels good? And that's really fun too, because then you've got a little bit of experience of so many different parts of the community that you're not just in this one, even though that might be your core part of that community. You've tried this activity and you've tried that event and you've met people in all these different areas, and that spreads you out in the community too. My boyfriend always says, like, when we go through town or even go out for dinner, sit on a patio and I say hi to everybody, he's like, you know too many people.
Yeah.
So,
the mayor of Revelstoke.
right?
Yeah.
It's a small town. You get to know people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because you're not rushing around trying to move your car for a parking meter. You can hang out.
Exactly. Yeah. Did you have tattoos before you moved to Revelstoke?
Yep, I did. Gosh. I got my first tattoo when I turned 18. Yeah, that one's covered up now. It was interesting. My mother and father were like, yeah, when you turn 18, you can get a tattoo. Great, got a tattoo. And then years and years later, it's gone, but I had my tongue pierced. It took my mom a year to notice. And boy, did she walked out of the room.
So somehow a tattoo was acceptable,
Right.
but the tongue piercing.
It was funny because those
crossed
are
the line.
temporary, but the tattoos are very permanent. And yeah, it was interesting. But now I have quite a few. But yeah, I started getting tattooed at 18, but not like in a big rush. I'm not super covered like a lot of artists.
Yeah.
My legs are, but
Well, and saying so, you
Yeah.
were allowed at 18 and you got your tattoo at 18,
first
but
one.
then you covered it up. So as a tattoo artist now, how do you feel about 18-year-olds coming in wanting a tattoo?
it depends. Depends on the tattoo. Depends on the person. Sometimes it's like, maybe you might want to think about that. Other times, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's that you've thought about that tattoo. This is like a meaningful tattoo, or it's a beautiful tattoo. It's a good placement. It's kind of like for mine and being covered up and all that. I can speak to the experiences. Like, I just wanted to get a tattoo, right? I didn't put a lot of thought into it, and the location I didn't put a lot of thought in. Like, none of that, right? I just walked into, back then, like, basically you walked into a studio or a shop and they had stuff all over the walls and you kind of picked from that, right? I'm sure there was a lot of custom stuff going on as well, but it was a little different back then. And so that's what I did. I walked into a shop and I'm like, give me half of that and put it there,
Yeah.
And so they can be like trendy, and there's always a different trend going on with tattoos. So it depends, right? But I don't know. It's your body. It's your choice.
Yeah.
You can get them laser removed.
Yeah.
You can, like I did, get them covered up.
Right.
Everybody start somewhere, make your own decisions.
Yeah. I have a similar story. I was 18, Bangkok.
Yeah.
Too much Mekong whiskey.
Okay.
Yes,
I get so many stories when people come in like,
right.
this tattoo's from there.
Yeah.
The thing I do want to say about deciding to get a tattoo and stories that I hear from people is never be afraid to just say no, right? Just say no. I have people come in and be like, oh, I felt pressured. It wasn't really what I wanted. I had to pick in 20 minutes. It was just the pressure to get one from either the artist or your friends or whatever reason it is. And then it's not so much the tattoo that you pick. It's that locks in an energy. It locks in that story, right? So the stories that come in, that everybody's like excited to share the stories of their tattoo. It's like, I got this because of this. It might be a crappy tattoo. It's like not done well, or like whatever it is, right? The design was like silly and goofy, but the story that it locks in, that's what stays with you. And people come in and they have these sad stories of like, I felt pressured, and like they might love the actual tattoo, but the story that's with it, that I think has a bigger impact on the like on you with the tattoo than the actual tattoo does.
Yeah.
So just don't be afraid to say no, because that story, that experience is what's gonna stay. That when you look at it, you're gonna be like,
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the idea of stories and how, even though, I feel that the tattoo I got at 18 was a really bad choice, there was the story that I was backpacking with my mom. My mom was with me on the journey. And so I actually never did anything about it. I still have it because that story, as you're saying, still means a lot. And it's on my back, so I don't see it anyways.
But yeah, the story is what stays. Even if you
stays.
can't see the tattoo,
Yeah,
or you
right.
get it covered up.
Yeah, exactly.
Still have that story.
Still
Now
have
it's
it.
like got layers.
Yeah, that's
But,
right.
Yeah. So definitely, like,
Wow.
don't think about it as the tattoo. Think about it as the story that's gonna stay with you. The experience, right? That's like getting the tattoo and where you're at, what you're doing, the process of making the decision.
Yeah. So we are jumping a little bit, but you're massaging up at the mountain, and how do you end up with this idea to become a stick and poke tattoo artist?
Okay, hand poke.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Why did I say stick and poke? Is it also referred to as that?
It's kind of referred to it, and in the industry we're trying to kind of clean up the terminology around it. So stick and poke, and we often refer to as like you're in your kitchen with your friend and you get just a...
I'm glad I said it in the incorrect way, because then that will give you an opportunity to tell me about that.
So that's kind of where that phrase kind of came from, to my understanding. Other people might have different stories. But
No,
so
fair
stick
enough.
and poke is a little bit more like, you're in your friend's basement, or at your friend's kitchen table. Whereas hand poke has become, it has become more the industry term for it's professional, right? You're in a studio, the person knows what they're doing, sanitation is extremely important, all of that, right? So it's a little bit of to differentiate between what you're getting and who you're going to. Yeah.
That's important to know.
It's a blurry line, but we're trying in the industry to kind of differentiate between them so that you know what you're getting.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So we're going to overlap a little bit of the adventure timeline.
Yeah.
So Vancouver Island, building houses, working with a girl out there, a friend of mine, and she's getting into hand poke tattoos. It's time for me to get another tattoo. It's been a while. So I'm like, okay, give me a tattoo. I want to see this hand poke stuff. And she gives me this seahorse on the back of my arm, which is the least painful place to get a tattoo. You'd think, because when you pinch back there, it hurts, right? I literally said to her, I'm like, are you sure you're doing this right? Because I don't feel anything. She's like, my mom said the same thing. I tattooed the same spot. I'm like, okay. Intrigued, right? Super intrigued. Like, low pain to no pain tattoos. Unheard of. Inconceivable. Just watched them.
Yeah.
Just watched Princess Bride recently. So, it takes me about a year until I'm like, okay, I've got some equipment. I want to try this. I'm talking to her. She's covered in tattoos. I'm like, where was the most painful place you got tattooed? She's like, the top of her foot. So I did this. This was the first tattoo I ever performed.
Wow.
And it's a little sand dollar, not a cucumber.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
And it did not hurt. I was like, this hand poke thing is pretty awesome. So I just started like dabbling in it.
Is this because with hand poking you have more control about the depth of the needle going in compared to a machine, or?
User error, maybe, if that's the reason. That's user error. It's like hand stitching versus machine sewing. Your stitches are you're perforating less, right? So with the machine, it is moving at a very rapid pace, and so you're getting hit with that needle quite a bit, whereas hand poking, every dot is like, it just gets a little bit more space, you're going slower, it's not got as much momentum, things like that, but your depth should be the same. Yeah, it's just maybe because it's slower. I remember my first tattoo, and I think everybody always asks what's the worst one. For a lot of people, the first one's the worst one because you just don't know what to expect. And the location I got my first one was like, I always often described it as like someone taking a scalpel down my spine. I was like, oh, it was horrible, right? Machines have come a long way. Artists too, like it highly depends on the artist. You have gentle artists and you have pretty tough artists. And sometimes both their quality of work is great and sometimes not. So with the hand poking, yeah, I just felt it was so gentle. And so then I started tattooing other people after practicing a little bit on myself, and had her as a mentor and a couple other friends, and everybody had the same response. They're like, wow, that really doesn't hurt. They're like, oh, that a comment I often get when I start working on people is like, that's it? I'm like, yep, that's it. Now again, like after 4.5 hours, which is your body's like adrenaline threshold sort of time limit, you're going to start to feel it a little bit more, because your adrenaline can carry you through 4.5 hours. It's kind of industry standard for comfort zone.
Well, it's a long time for someone to be still.
And to sit still, yeah. So your adrenaline will start to come back down, and you'll start to feel things a little bit more. But and so hand poking, again, like you'll start to feel it, same thing, but it's still going to be more gentle. Yeah. So.
And it was easy to find people to.
Well, like a lot of people starting out, there's a couple different ways you can go. So I started practicing on myself, and sacrificing skin, we say. And then your friends are like intrigued, just like I was with my friend. I'm like, oh, give me a tattoo. So probably back then you could have classified me as a stick and poke. I wasn't taking it super. I didn't imagine it becoming my career. And yeah, so I had friends that were like, give me a tattoo, and I'm like, sure. And then that just progressed, and like, not quite snowballed, but it progressed, like 5 years of this. And then I started taking it a lot more seriously, and researching the proper everything, right? Like how to run a shop, basically. And I had a few mentors that were machine artists, but they would look at my work, I'd send them photos, and just from a photo they could tell what I did right and what I did wrong, sort of thing. So I started taking like the precision a lot more seriously. And one year I had too many friends saying, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to open a studio. And I looked for a year in town. Revelstoke doesn't have a lot of spaces for small businesses. And once they do become available, the business beside them often have swallowed them up and expanded. So I looked for a year, didn't find anything. I had my roommate move out, so I was like, maybe I'll try this. I can keep looking in town for a space if I don't like it from my home, right? Because I did massage in spas a lot, and I would do some massage here, and I didn't like it. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna hate it, and then I loved it.
Like the idea of working from home?
Just for a spa setting versus home massage setting, just it was such a different experience for me, and I didn't enjoy it as much. I loved working in the spa setting, and so I felt that it would have the same feeling. Like I wouldn't love working from home in this space, but I didn't have that experience for tattooing in a different environment versus this, and I ended up loving it. And now I don't even look for a space in town anymore. Why pay like the rent in town?
Exactly.
Then,
yeah. Was it relatively easy to get it set up as a business? Or?
It was for me. I got really lucky with my space. I had no idea when I did buy this house a number of years ago, and I had no idea this was what I was going to end up doing. The things that I needed to have was a separate entrance, so no access through the house. And that includes like having a bathroom. So just over here I have a bathroom in the studio, separate entrance. And then the things I had to install was I have a sink there, and then a separate sink in what was the walk-in closet, which is now like my office print room. And the sink in there is for processing equipment, and this is for hands. And it had to be separate from the sink for hands for clients and the bathrooms and all that. So the only thing I had to do is put 2 sinks in, and everything was set. So you have to go through the health inspection, the building inspection, and the fire inspection. So it was.
You did everything
I got really
as you
lucky
needed.
with the space. It was already like I had the doors already. And
Yeah, to have the natural light coming in.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the light's really nice.
Well done.
Yeah.
And Acoustic Ink.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this awesome name?
So it was a toss up between Acoustic Ink and Ink Unplugged. Going back to like MTV days, right?
Yeah.
And I liked both of them, and I put it out to all my friends. I'm like, which one? And they're like, well, we like the way it sounds and rolls off the tongue, Acoustic Ink. So I went with Acoustic Ink just because it's like unplugged. I didn't have a machine, right? So I'm not even a musician. I have no musical
it makes sense.
talent at all.
It's a very fitting name. I love it. Yeah.
But for some reason, yeah, and now I do use both. I use a machine and I do hand poke, and I've often toyed with changing the name, but it's so much work to rebrand.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even that I'm like deep into like branding like a lot of people are on social media.
You could just pick up the guitar and then just,
serenade people.
Acoustic Ink.
Yeah, well, I'll often play acoustic music for people, I think it's also very gentle, right? Acoustic is a lot more gentle in my mind, like the music is more gentle, and a lot of studios are changing, but you'll still get a lot of studios or shops out there that are the old school, like heavy metal, like very aggressive music in these tattoo shops. And I feel like the Acoustic Ink is like it tells you already that it's a different vibe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and I get that a lot, like how quiet, like how much more calm and relaxing it is in my studio.
Yeah.
And so you appeal to different markets, right? Like, great, if you want to go into a shop because you want aggressive music and all that, perfect. There's lots of them out there. Mm-hmm. If you want something a little bit more calming and that, you're probably gonna, and my tattoos are also more delicate and softer looking tattoos. So it kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to find kind of across the board, right?
Yeah, so speaking of designs or trends, are you seeing a certain trend in design that people are asking for more of? Or
so in Revelstoke, I do tattoo a lot of mountains, a lot of our local mountains, and I try to switch them up, like the same mountain, but like kind of highlight a different feature of that mountain sort of thing.
Which one's the most popular?
Mount Begbie.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course.
Of course.
Like, it's on everything in this town. Half of the businesses are
Yeah.
called Mount Begbie or Begbie this or Begbie
Yeah.
that. And it's, it's our local iconic mountain. I do like to branch out and do other mountains though, and it's interesting because like in the winter I'll do some more ski hill, Mount Mackenzie. I've biked up Mount Revelstoke to get better pictures of Mount Mackenzie from like the north side, because that's a lot more interesting. You can just get mountain references online too for these mountains, like someone else has taken great pictures, and so I'll try to do that. I can get into like quite detailed tattoos with them, or just simple like outlines of them. So yeah, lots of mountains. And I don't know if that's like so much a trend as more to what I tattoo a lot here. The industry favorite to poke fun at for recent trends is fine line tattoos. They're relatively new, but not terribly anymore. And it's kind of, like old school versus new school kind of stuff. Like
Enlighten me. I'm not sure what
So
it is.
they say like bold will hold.
Okay.
So like bold lines are gonna stay and they're not gonna fade. Whereas with fine line tattoos, they're tricky because you get one shot, and it's such a small little line, and the thinner the needle, the easier it is to like for your depth to fluctuate because we're not cutting through the skin, but for lack of thinking of a better word, it's like you can slice through that skin easier with a very sharp thin blade than with a big thick blade, right? It's going to be a lot sharper. So they're harder to have a consistent line. If you want to stay really soft with it, sometimes you're not going deep enough, so then the ink fades quite a bit or falls out even if you don't go deep enough to hold that ink. So it's a trend. I don't. Maybe it's a trend. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
If the artist can do them really well and get that depth right, and like any style, the more you practice just that style, the better you're gonna get at it, right? Same as like painting and anything else you do. The more you do that particular thing and focus on it, the better you're gonna. So there are some really amazing fine line artists out there. I do some fine line, but yeah, it's hard because it's such a it's a fine line.
It's a fine line. Yeah.
So yeah, so there's that, and then abstract is really in right now, and it's super fun.
Yeah, that would be.
You can do like anything with it. I've got a little bit over here you can come look at later, I guess. So that's really fun. Those are the ones that I feel are kind of, and then I don't know if this is new or not, but like stamps, like kind of like your passport on your arm. You can get like passport stamps, or just I have like birthday month stamps, things like that.
Right. And when you say stamp, it's outlined?
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it a
So,
stamp.
Some of them look very Japanese to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah.
So when you're talking styles and techniques, you'd mentioned about going to conventions.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's a wealth of knowledge, and it must be so fun to show up at one of those conventions for you.
Yeah. They're great networking. They're great learning opportunities. If you have the time, they have seminars at them. You get to meet so many people. The first one I ever went to was still like during masks. So
right.
So
Yeah,
it's
because
like-
you started your business just after COVID?
just before.
Just before.
Like-
okay.
I opened in like December of 2019.
Oh, and then March hit.
And then March we were shut down, and it was a soft opening, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm ready. I like announced it, but it wasn't like this big thing, right? I was like, okay, it's set up. I've got all my licenses and tickets and like inspections and all that stuff, right? I've got this ready. December 2019. I'm still working massage because it wasn't my work yet, and everything just comes to a halt in March. In March, working massage at a ski hill, it's kind of when you're ready for things to come to a halt as well. You're burnt out, your body's tired. So it actually was really good timing for me. It gave me, at the time, an unknown amount of time to get ready. But it's like, okay, you're not working massage because that's shut down. You're not working tattoos. Everything's shut down. So now I can rest, and I can also just like get more ready. And so we were able to open in May. So it gave us 2 months it gave me 2 months of just getting ready.
Right.
And then May hit, and I think people just had time on their hands, and I was so slammed. It was crazy. It just was like just busy for I don't know how long. It was a really great start to the business.
You just sort of go, I guess I'm doing this.
Yeah, I was like, well, this is working. So yeah, and I mean, the studio's gone through many changes since then, because I was, what are we in now, 2025? In just June now, so 5 years. So just had 5 years like a month ago.
Amazing.
If
Did you
consi-
take
if
time to
consider
celebrate
May,
that?
I didn't even realize it.
Okay,
Yeah,
this is something
5
you have
years.
to celebrate.
Yeah,
It's an accomplishment.
yeah,
Congratulations.
it is. Wow. Yeah, so conventions. Yeah, I started going to conventions. I went to a convention as an attendee before I opened the studio because I wanted to kind of get into the juice of it all and like meet other artists, talk to other artists, see what the conventions were like. I met a mentor at the first convention I went to as an attendee who gave me a tattoo. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he was really friendly, which is, like more and more I do see in the industry, but I hear that it didn't used to be that way. It didn't used to be so friendly. And he would often comment too. He's like, there's enough assholes in this industry. I don't know if I can say that. But I don't need to be one. So he took me under his wing, a couple other artists as well. And then the following year when I opened, I went to a convention. I knew what it would look like, but I didn't know what to expect as an artist, right? And I pre-booked everything. And I was like back to back to back and working late hours, like 1 a.m. And the guy across the hall from me was there working, and he and I are still friends to this day. And, we're just like, I've got like 16,000 more pokes. And he's like, and he was doing those patches. So like they look like stitched on patches. And he's like, yep, I've got like 16,000 more stitches. The two of us just sitting there, our eyeballs like this big. And, yeah, it was quite the experience, and that's how you meet people though. So I met him, and he's a mentor now and a good friend. And the girl that was beside me, she had a very different approach, and we talked about that. And she's like, yeah, I don't pre-book anything anymore. I used to do that, and I just want some time to walk around if I want to like breathe and like not worry if you finish in time for your next client. And I was like, oh, you can do that? Okay.
So, have you started doing that?
Oh yeah, the very next year I pre-booked a few, and I stopped pre-booking stuff. I pre-book, so you can kind of work before hours a little bit before the show starts if you've got a client with a piece that's pre-booked. So I'll do that because I like to be working already when the doors open. Especially with the hand poking, because it's very visual. I'm the only one usually at a convention that's hand poking, and so people will see this different technique that's not as common. It's not as you don't find it everywhere, right? So they'll see me working, and I'll just draw a crowd. I've had a friend, like other artist in town, he's come to some convention. He's like, I keep trying to come say hi to you, but you always have such a crowd in front of your table. And I'm like, amazing.
It's a good problem to have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me. So how many people would be attending approximately?
It depends on the show. Yeah. So the Calgary show is the biggest one. Last October it was 700 or you mean attending or artists?
I guess I'm interested first in the artists, and then of course how many attendees.
So yeah, like 750 artists.
And you would be the only hand?
And I'd be one. There'd
one
be
of maybe five.
One of two. Maybe.
What?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And and that was the biggest year that they did was last year, and they're dropping about 100. They're in a different venue, or a different section of the venue this coming October. So it'll be down to like 650, which is still one of the bigger shows. And then Edmonton is like 400, 500 artists. I'm on my way to Red Deer. I actually leave on Thursday, and I don't know how many artists are there, but I'm guessing like max 400. And then in Calgary, they get like 15,000 attendees. I think it is. Oh. Yeah. So 15,000 or 1,500. I don't remember. I don't keep those numbers. I'm not behind the scenes so much. But yeah, it's quite a few in different places. Like I did 1 year, I went out to the Toronto tattoo show, mostly because my family all lives out there. I'm like, oh great, I can write it off and go home, visit mom and sister and niece and nephew and all that. And that show was not nearly as good. It was a big enough show and all that, but the differences between like Calgary and Edmonton, Red Deer, and Toronto is that there's so much to do in Toronto. So you're competing, like the tattoo show is competing with tons of fun, culture, arts, everything, right? Yeah. Whereas like in these other cities, Lethbridge as well is another one where there's not much else to do. So when the tattoo show comes to town, everybody's like, yeah, it's time to get tattooed, right? Yeah.
So you're going on Thursday.
I leave Thursday.
Yeah.
Red
Do you have
Deer.
a lot of things to prepare? Or?
I've been preparing, so I just had to change my entire display. And so somehow that has taken me weeks to do. So this is now what I have.
Wow.
These frames on these, and every show you go to, you kind of look around and you glean a little bit of, what are you doing? Oh, what are you doing? What have you got? That looks good. And then you come home and you spend weeks changing your entire approach. And
well, that keeps it interesting and fresh.
Yeah,
and
changing your offered designs. So that's the nice thing too about switching from pre-booking to flash and walk-ups and a call list sort of thing is I have my designs ready, and if for the pre-books, for the before hours, I'll have those ready, but I can just kind of do what I feel like drawing and bring that and offer that up. And I mean, people just like, you just, people love it or they don't. And you got hundreds and thousands of pieces to choose from throughout the convention. You're going to find your artist, you're going to find your client. Yeah,
you must be looking forward to going. That's exciting.
I'm excited. This is my first time going to Red Deer.
Okay.
I hear it's a good show.
Yeah.
I always look forward to seeing all my friends.
Yeah.
Picking up my friend slash artist who's done a lot of work on me at the airport on my way. He flies in from Spain every year to go to these. So
exciting.
Yeah.
So before we take a moment to walk around and look at your designs and have you show us some
Has
of
it been
products,
an hour already?
Well,
oh my
I think
gosh.
we'll include. I just would like to know, do you know where you'd like to be in the next few years, as far as with your business or with you?
I mean, ideally, I'd love if Revelstoke were super busy, because it's fun to work from home. I love being in Revelstoke. With any luxury industry, like it ebbs and flows with the economy, and well, you know, our economy is in an interesting place right now, so it's a little bit more quiet, and that's given me the reasons to, beyond like loving going to conventions, it's prompted me to sign up for more conventions, because that you can go work, and I mean, like, you work 14-hour days sort of thing, like 10 a.m. till 1 a.m. for 3 days, or roughly those hours sort of thing. And then you come home and you can rest, you know. So I do love doing those. I do want to do more conventions over the years. I like to do the ones I can drive to. I like to do guest spots. I just did Fernie in the winter. I wanted to go out to like Squamish. It's the nice thing about what we can do, and like we open our doors to other artists. I can go work in a different shop for like a week. You just have to promote, which I'm terrible at.
Well, you'd mentioned Vernon. You'd like to come to Vernon, so please come and see us.
My friend who I'm sharing a booth with in Red Deer is actually moving from Kelowna to Vernon, so she's going to be working there, and so maybe I'll come out to where they're at. So busier in Revelstoke without me having to market, because, you know, I'm an artist, not a marketer. Busier shows, like just going to more shows, and continue to do the things that I do, why I live in Revelstoke, right? Like the skiing, the biking, all that fun outdoor stuff, the farmers markets, all that, like enjoying the lifestyle that we're really fortunate to have here in Revelstoke.
Kata, amazing life that you have.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty good. And thank you for sharing with us.
Thanks for coming in.
We will have a chance to look around in a moment.
Show you around.
We'll see everyone soon. Welcome back. We're with Kata, and she's going to show us around acoustic ink tattoo.
Yeah. So this is my little studio at the back of my house. I've collected flowers from the garden, and I've got some prints and jewelry from various artistic endeavors.
Now, these are original paintings, or
this one's a print. That's original, and a print. Got the originals somewhere.
Gorgeous.
So yeah, I just like to decorate it with art and things that from around the property, other artists' work that I really admire in town, and some products that you can find in any tattoo studio, really, like aftercare lotions and stickers.
Yeah.
And then we have some flash like available designs, and I've been spending a lot of time getting that ready for upcoming conventions that we spoke about. So I'll have this displayed at my booth, and people can walk up and be like, oh, I want that. And then we'll get them in and we'll tattoo them, or they'll be online a little bit too. You can see them online and pre-book into the studio. Some of my older flash, this was all when I was really practicing the stippling for the hand hooks. It's just dot work rather than lines, so that's really fun. Yeah, it's a small studio, so it's not gonna take a lot of time to show you around, and nice bright light. But then
Well,
over
talk
here,
to us about sustainability, because that is very important to you.
it's super important. So I went from building sustainable houses to trying to have a tattoo studio that was as sustainable as possible, which was really tricky when I first started out because there's so much single-use plastic in this industry. And then I discovered, first it was Good Judy. They're out of Toronto, and they really do an amazing job. Everything they sell is compostable or biodegradable, and it's all for the tattoo industry. So these are ink cups, so what I put my ink in when I'm working, they're just, I'll show you one. So they're just like made of paper, and they have a little bit of a lining, but it's all compostable. You can just chuck it in. I have like in my bin I usually have a compostable garbage bag, so I separate that even. And single-use plastic stuff that we use, like bags to cover our wash bottles or soap bottles, right? Bags to cover our machines. These are the compostable station covers. So they're just the covers that I put over my station where I'm working, and then I put all this good stuff on there, and everything's just so nice and compostable and biodegradable, and I feel good about it. That was a huge thing. Even the nitrile gloves are compostable, or these ones are biodegradable. And it was a hard thing coming into tattooing and realizing I had to buy so much single-use plastic, and I didn't know what to do. And then I found these guys, and now more and more companies are offering it. Like this one, Good Barriers, they're Good Guy Supply, and they're actually in Salmon Arm. So
Local-ish, kind of, yeah.
I have friends that like drive through Salmon Arm all the time.
Yeah,
Can you pick
not
me
far.
up some stuff?
Yeah.
And, I don't have to have it shipped.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
it's just so nice to have that as an option in such a consumption-heavy industry.
Thanks for making the effort. That's important.
It's important to me, so I'm just super grateful there's companies out there that it's important to as well, and it gives us the option, right?
Yeah. Again, thanks for taking the time to introduce us to what you do in this awesome world of hand poke and also machine tattoos.
Both.
Nice to meet you, Kata.
Nice to meet you too, Mimi. Thanks so much for coming in, guys.
Thank you.